Hello YouTube and welcome to the channel. Now then, very exciting day today because we're going to be testing this. It's the Eachine EC30B 1/14 scale brushless buggy. Now this has very kindly been supplied by Banggood to the channel for review, so great big thumbs up to them. So why is he so excited about testing this buggy, you might be asking yourself? Well, for the simple fact is that it's a 1/14 scale brushless buggy that isn't a Wltoys 144001. So I'm interested to find out whether this is as good or better than basically the buggy we've come to consider as the industry standard in that particular price range. And on paper at least, the specs between the Wltoys and Eachine buggies are very close. I mean, this thing will set you back 100 quid, which is approximately $133. That's approximately what the Wltoys costs, or the new brushless one I should say. Top speed wise, I think out of the box the Wltoys does about 40 miles an hour, which is about 65 kilometers an hour. This thing's rated top speed is 65 kilometers an hour. You will soon find out whether that's correct or not. I think the Wltoys has a 2845 brushless motor. This thing has a 2840 brushless motor. Anyway, like I say, the specs are very, very close. I'm interested to see whether this thing is the new king of the 1/14 scale budget buggies. So anyway, before we crack the box open, which I can't wait to do, let's have a quick look at the specs. It's ready to run, 4-wheel drive, 2.4 gig. It says it's got some qualified shocks with an adjustable ring, so just got adjustable oil shocks basically. It's got some ball bearings in it. It's got a brushless motor. It says you can get an optional metal spur and diff gear, and it says it's got splash proof electronics. Anyway, enough waffle, let's crack this box open. Okay, in the box we have some stickers for the body. We have a parts and instruction manual. We have a spare battery, a charger and some spare body clips. And we have our spare wing there with a little screwdriver and some screws. Now then, we have our transmitter, and I believe this takes 2 AA batteries. Now we've got steering trim, steering dual rate, we've got a steering reverse knob, and we've got a knob that allows us to have a low and high speed range. And of course, there's an on-off switch. There's also an aux button on the side. No idea what that does, but if I can be bothered to read the instructions, I'm sure I'll find out. And last but not least, we've got the buggy itself, and I think this thing looks absolutely fantastic. I love this red, white and blue bodywork. Now, dimensionally, I believe this thing is slightly smaller than the Wltoys, but it's a fraction in it. Anyway, I tell you what we'll do. We'll get the bodywork off, lift the lid, see what we get underneath. Right then, underneath the bodywork we have the other battery, which is a 1500 milliamp hour lithium ion unit. Would have liked to have seen a LiPo, but you do get 2 of them. Now then, if you're at all familiar with the HBX 16889 Pro, you will immediately recognise this layout, because this motor is a 2840 3800 kV motor, which I believe is the same that's in the HBX. We've got a very similar, if not the same, ESC receiver of 40-45 amp output, and we have a 3-wire micro steering servo there plugged straight into it. Also, we have got oil shocks with blue aluminium caps and bits and pieces on them, and I can immediately tell that this transmission has got a lot of metal in it. Now, if you're new to the channel, we like to do a bit of a cheeky teardown on all the RCs that we get. So I've just had one of the wheels off. Now the wheels are 2 different widths, front and rear. Tyres feel quite firmish, and I think they've got foams inside. They're not like the softest rubber, they do feel quite firm. Suspension, we've got our oil filled dampers here. We've got metal drive cups on the front, metal cups on the diffs. We've got a metal drive shaft between the two. We've got, this is a very similar story on the rear. We've got metal drive cups on the wheel and diff side, and a metal drive shaft that links the 2 of them. Now, like I said to you before, this all looks very, very familiar, especially if you've got a HBX 16889, which is no bad thing because those things are tough as old boots. Anyway, what I'm going to do is we're going to take some covers off, have a look at the diff, have a look at the central transmission, and take it from there. Right then, at the front end, and as suspected, we've got some metal gears. We've got a little metal bevel gear on the end of the drive shaft. The differential ring gear is metal, and I'm not going to open it up, but I can feel inside that this thing has some metal gears in it. Now then, as I mentioned to you before, I think this has got a lot of HBX 16889 DNA in it, and if I do this, this is a HBX 16889 differential. It drops straight in basically. Also the drive shaft, I have here a 16889 drive shaft, and it is identical. This thing is absolutely brimming with HBX DNA, which is no bad thing because the 16889 is a superb piece of kit. Right then, I'm not going to open the rear diff housing up to look at the diff because it's probably going to be a very similar story to the front, all metal inside. Now we've got a metal pinion gear on the end of the motor, and we've got a great big chunky metal reduction gear that mates to that. Also the central drive shaft is metal. We've got some nice aluminium shock towers and a nice little aluminium brace here between the two rear wing brackets. Now the only thing that this lacks so far over the Wltoys is the fact on the Wltoys you've got some adjustment on the suspension with regards to the steering, etc. But unfortunately on the Eachine you haven't. Now I did forget to mention, and I can confirm, that this thing is indeed fully ball raced as it says on the box. And also if we have a look at a HBX 16889 shock absorber, we can see they're identical. Just further confirming that this thing has a lot in common with the HBX. Now as I've been putting this buggy back together, I have actually been thinking that if it is so close to a HBX 16889, is this thing in fact a true 1/14 scale buggy? Well, I have here our trusty gantry, and this is sold as a 1/16 truggy, and if we compare the wheel, I bet you can't see there, hang on, let's go take you out there. If you compare the wheelbase, the Eachine is identical to the gantry here. So I don't think this thing is a true 1/14 scale buggy. I think this is more like 1/16, like the truggy, like the HBX it's actually based upon. Anyway, enough waffle. What we really want to know is, what is this thing like? So I'm going to stick the stickers on the bodywork, I'm going to bang the rear wing on, charge the battery up, and we're going to take this thing out for a blast. Right then, we're outside with a bullcrap detector strapped to the back of it. The box says 65 kilometers an hour, which is about 40 mile an hour. I very much doubt that on that lithium ion battery. I reckon possibly 25, something like that. Anyway, let's try the top speed of this thing. Right then, the first speed run with the lithium ion that's included in the box, 21.2 miles an hour. That's a little bit shy of 40 miles an hour, I'd say. In fact, we're miles off. I'm going to try it with a LiPo in it, see what it does on that. Right then, there you have it, 22 miles an hour with a little LiPo in it. Well, I'm sorry Eachine, but that's nowhere near 40 miles an hour. Right, it's just started doing something very, very strange. I'll just show you with the throttle. I've got steering still. Let's have a quick no problem at all. But throttle, not sure if I've got a problem with the ESC. Right then guys, it started doing that funny throttle thing again. I've got no drive, got steering but no drive. I've tried swapping the battery over. I'm not sure if the ESC isn't overheating, but I know for a fact this thing is getting on my wick. Okay, then back inside. What did we think of Eachine's EC30B twister? Well, let's start with the traditional good and bad points. Let's have some bad points first. First of which is the scale. I'm not 100% convinced this is 1/14th scale. This has got the same wheelbase as the 16889, which is 1/16th scale. So if anyone can explain to me how this is 1/14th and the HBX on which this is based is 1/16th, I'm all ears. But I don't personally think this is a true 1/14th scale buggy. Now the second bad point is the actual speed of this thing. It does nothing like Eachine quote for this. Eachine say that this should do 65 kilometers an hour, which is 40 miles an hour. When I tested it, it basically did 22 miles an hour with a LiPo in it that you don't actually get in the box. I mean, just to give you an example, I mean this Bonsai Intrepid here is a 380 or 390 brushed truggy, and this thing does 21 miles an hour, and it's slightly heavier as well. I'm not entirely sure how Eachine have managed to get this thing to go so slow, and how they ended up at a figure of 65 kilometers an hour for it. I do not know. Now my third and final bad point is by far the worst, and it is the fact that this thing keeps cutting out every 5 minutes. It started off doing it intermittently every now and again. It would stop and then immediately restart, but now it stops and won't go again until you've let it cool down. So I think basically the ESC is goosed on this. Right, so that's all the negativity out of the way. Let's have some good points, shall we? The first of which is this thing is genuinely good fun. I really enjoyed piloting this around. I'm not a massive fan of buggies, but this was really entertaining to pilot around. It handles really well. These oil shocks do a superb job of keeping the thing steady and on the right track. It jumps well, despite my poor performance in the videos. It jumps unbelievably well, actually, and it's just good fun to use when it's working. Okay, the second thing I liked was the battery life. You get a good 15 minutes out of each one of those little 1500 milliamp hour lithium ion battery packs. I mean, this is the 2 battery deal. They do a 3 battery deal, I believe, but you get excellent runtime out of the batteries. Now the third thing I've got written down on my list is the fact that because this is based on HBX 16889, it's going to be tough as old boots, and it is, to be fair. I did crash it quite a few times, and at one point I did actually run this thing full speed into a lamppost, which I didn't catch on video unfortunately, and it just basically bounced off. So this, I'm pretty sure mechanically anyway, not electronically but mechanically, this thing is going to be able to take some proper abuse. Right then, crunch time. Would I recommend Eachine's EC30B to anyone? Well, I can sort of forgive the scale issue. I can almost forgive the spurious top speed claims by Eachine. I mean, come on guys, 65 kilometers an hour, it literally does half of that. I mean, how you ended up with that figure, God only knows. But you really need to go back and have a serious think about how you calculate your vehicle's top speed. The only thing I cannot forgive is the fact that the ESC is on its way out. I mean, I've only used it a few times. I think it's had 3 or 4 batteries through it, and already it's playing up. So is this the new king of the 1/14th scale budget buggies? No. If you've got a Wltoys 144001 or 010, I think you're perfectly safe. Although I had high hopes for this, and it really does pain me to say this, you are better off going and buying the Wltoys. And although this is a very, very good buggy in its own right, if I'd have bought this and found out that it only did half of its stated top speed, I would be absolutely mortified. Plus, I can't recommend any RC that is basically breaking down. Now, I'm actually genuinely gutted about this thing because I really did have high hopes for it. And when it's working, it really is quite entertaining. It's genuinely a good buggy. But anyway, the story hasn't finished there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of all the Eachine HBX electronics in there. And what we're going to do is we're going to try and make this thing into the buggy that was promised us. So I'm going to order a decent motor, some decent electronics, and we're going to see if we can't actually turn this thing into the buggy we were promised. As ever, a big thank you to Banggood for supplying this RC to the channel for review. I will of course put some affiliate links in the description below to where you can get one. They do a brushed version as well, which I don't think comes with the oil shocks, and it's got the brushed motor, but it might be a better bet electronics wise. I don't think it's much slower either, but I'll leave both of those links in the description. And as ever, if you found the video of some use and interest, please give it a big thumbs up. And if you're feeling that way inclined, hit that subscribe button for more similar future honest content. Thanks for watching, guys, and I will catch you again very soon. Thank you.